Will you please welcome to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Phil.
My name is Reverend Phil. I know we've had a lot of religious stuff so far, so you might take a deep breath. My kind of preaching is a little different. I am a bicycle pornographer. It's a little strange, I know. It's because maybe would never think of taking those two things and trying to put them together, but in my mind, it's kind of the peanut butter and chocolate of our generation. It's hard to imagine two things that are more capable of providing joy and liberation in their own way, and really it's exciting to see different people try and find creative ways to mesh these things, which otherwise might never be connected. But the fact is, like, your entire lifespan, you've always had a connection between sex and transportation. And throughout your history, if you were running away from something that was eating you, you really wanted to be able to move faster and therefore be able to have more sex or procreate or whatever. Which is a really good idea, right? And so back today, I actually curated a touring film festival that just in a week will begin its 18th tour. This first time in a long time that we're doing it by bike, and that's going to be really exciting. It may be terrifying, and I'm thrilled for the Porno Express to kick off our 7th year. And it's a bit of a challenge because we do things kind of like this, and it's very, very powerful to have adult time. We don't get to gather very often. I mean, bars are okay, but really, when do you actually get to think about what people are talking about and contemplate these things? And it's valuable because not everything has to be for the children, God damn it. They have plenty of shit that they have. It's only for fucking them, and we can have some shit that's fucking for us. And so we gather people together to appreciate these different movies from different artists from all over the world. We have movies from Milan, from Berlin, from Gainesville. Okay, so if, being able to gather to enjoy these things seems like a really good idea, because then you actually, as a community, can observe obscenity and decide what you like for yourself. But like I say, you have to travel to do that, and so that's what I do. I travel a lot, and I really love being in Portland and Cascadia. It's my home, and I'm fucking surrounded by brilliant people. Maybe you know a lot of them. Probably. And a couple times it's a bit of a challenge. I mean, I've traveled to 24 countries over the past couple years, but I've recently had a lot of trouble going to Canada. And one time after leaving Buffalo for Toronto, I was pulled aside and they asked me to go through my pockets, and I was wearing my biker vest, which means I don't know. And then after a while, they were like, "We're searching your stuff." I'm like, "Consensually? No, but not that matters, I guess." And they come back and they're like, "Okay, pick up your stuff." And I'm like, "Great." And they're like, "Oh, what's that?" I'm like, "Oh, condom." And they're like, "Oh, you think you're gonna get lucky this weekend?" It's a little odd place to be put in by a security guard, because he's got power to really make your life miserable. So trying to politely as possible inform him that in the event that I am fortunate enough to actually have sex with someone, it would be really great if I didn't impregnate them or contract a sexually transmitted infection. Well, it's a very mature opinion. Yeah. And then he tells me to put my hands behind my back, and I'm like, "What? No." Really? And sure enough, he slaps cups on me and they send me away into a little room. They're telling me that they're going to prosecute me for trafficking obscenity. And I thought, well, maybe they don't have the internet in Canada, because it seems like you can get it pretty much anywhere, and it didn't seem too hard, you can. And sure enough, they held me, and they were all sorts of very upset about sex. And it seems like we should have more mature opinions about this. This is one of my personally branded condoms. It's got a little helmet on it, a little bicycle helmet. Anyone want a bicycle helmet condom? Yeah. There might be another one if someone asks nicely later. So they're really just making my life miserable in every way they possibly can because I'm being totally honest and trying my best to understand why they're so upset all the time. And they put me in the room and they tell me that they're going to be with me a long time while they take all my stuff, including my person, and I should get accustomed to that, and that they're calling the obscenity expert. Yo! I'm here! I'm doing this shit! This is my job, man! I don't know everything about it, but do you really need, more profanity than these nipples can provide? But find an expert in profanity, and he has to drive in a couple hours, so I should just get cozy while they rack up all of the shit that's gonna happen to me over the next, several years of my future prosecution. It's an awkward place to be. You don't want to be there. I guess, maybe if it's a fetish of yours, you can do that. I can tell you how. But otherwise, I think you would really be better off not being detained for hours, thinking that instead of going to Europe and which you've spent the last year of your life and had all these other people dedicate their time towards, that instead you're just going to be in jail fighting charges that you don't even know what they're about. They don't tell you anything. They just say oh yeah, obscenity. You're going away, mister. Yeah, I got you. I guess, with that place where you take people who travel with condoms, that same place. And so I'm waiting, and I'm really trying to be relaxed, but they're really disturbing people to hang out with. And my Zen-like behavior did eventually come to be moderately successful. I was able to not crap myself in fear. And the obscenity expert comes in, and he's very different, actually. He's calm. He's a little confused. And so I immediately felt a connection with him. Because I didn't know why I was there, and if he doesn't know why I'm there, I'm like, this is way better than everyone else. And he says something like, well, the book, I don't think you're going to get in trouble for that, at least not by me, so. The book, the notebook, the laptop? Wait, was it something else? What the fuck could it be? There's a lot of weird shit maybe on my laptop, but I bet there's a lot of weird shit on your laptop. And the thing is that he's very, just be nice or calm, and maybe they'll let you into Canada. And he's gone. And driving another couple hours home, I suppose. Being the obscenity expert, it's a pretty awkward place to be, but I think we both handled it okay for that time being. And sure enough, they sit me down and they start running through the kind of significant criminal history that I've attained for, I think, pretty excellent reasons, actually. Maybe in 2004, I was streaking Civic Stadium. I thought that was fabulous. And then I did my community service, and it was fine. And then in 2006, I think, I was hit by a drunk driver in the World Naked Bike Ride. And the passenger happened to be an off-duty police officer. So I went to jail, and they tried to prosecute me, but the driver was really drunk and had a long history of going to jail for cocaine and other weird. And so they decided not to prosecute me because she kept on doing cocaine, I guess. And then another time, some cops tasered me because I didn't have a bike light. So I've got these kind of, and they're interesting stories for another time, but I have to tell them all to this person, and this is now a jury of my own peers decided that, in fact, I didn't need to be sentenced to more jail time because I didn't have a bike light. Go figure. But this, the security guard, the border guard is really bothered by this. He cannot get away from the fact that somehow I have been in their clutches so many times and just slipped through their fingers. And he's points to the book, and I'm like, okay, this actually is a book. This is great. I'm going to figure this shit out, because I was like really going to be bothered if I didn't even know what the fuck it was that they actually held me for 7 hours for in the first place. And then he's like, you see this? And he's pointing to basically a half step beyond a line drawing, like stick figures. And I'll try and describe it for you, but imagine nicely drawn stick figures. A guy who's like having a pretty great time, and his 5-foot erection, the head of his boner is in a lady's mouth, and her eyes are closed, but she looks like she's having a great time. And there's 2 guys next to her that are like tapping her on the shoulder, and they're like, hey. And the caption reads, "Step lively, Bogart." So I think this reaction is good. This means that, it's a little confusing at first. And I can explain what I think it means, because, you see, the 2 gentlemen there did not happen to have very large penises at all. They were flaccid. And maybe they weren't interested in having their penises sucked as much as they were interested in sucking that massive fucking penis, which would make it amusing, because you wouldn't expect that. Huh. Now try to explain that to a border guard who's really disturbed by everything that he's just learned for the past several hours. And ultimately, I'm left with very little things except for, I'm sorry, I don't know what you see, but they seem to have pubic hair, so I don't think they're children. And in fact, I know they're illustrations, so I'm sure they're not children, because they're illustrations. You really didn't just hold me in a jail cell for 7 hours telling me I was going to go to jail for many years because of a drawing. And then he's kind of on the verge, and he says, well, it looks like you've never been denied entry into Canada. So I guess I'm not going to deny you entry either. I was struck by how odd of a statement of, he's very truthful, clearly, driven by that kind of mentality of righteousness and, I guess, or something. And he couldn't actually allow himself to break from the mold. And my job is really getting people to actually see themselves as being possible, as being pornographers. I mean, at least for a weekend, if not for the rest of your life. But that's probably strange for some of the people in this audience. And so I had that moment of I can help you with this. If you need some reassurance, I can help you persecute me further. And then I said nothing, and I went to Canada. I had a great time, and I continue to travel with really inspiring movies about sex and transportation.